And thanks for joining us here on PM Express tonight. Tonight, the COVID-19 pandemic is still causing a lot of havoc across the world and in Ghana specifically. Several decisions have been taken. Tonight, we're going to be probing the science behind the presidential decisions that you've heard the president announce over the last few weeks. Let's start with the basics. Where do we stand tonight as a country when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic? We know as of now that our case count hasn't changed. It's still 1,042. This is according to the official website of the Ghana Health Service. 5 more cases have been recorded in the Ashanti region. I'm mentioning the 5 more cases is because we've been told of that by the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate. It hasn't reflected in our official case count yet. Out of 204 samples tested so far, and this is in the Ashanti region. We also know that if you go to the northern region, recording there also 2 cases. Now, 83 people we know have recovered and now returning to the official figures on the updated website. Death still remains at 9, at least as of the last time we checked this on the page. The regional balance hasn't changed much. We expect this to go up in certain regions because of what we are getting from the other regions tonight. Ashanti region is still 62 cases. The eastern is 51, and the eastern cases, we understand, has gone up again by at least 2 more, and the contact tracing has started for those 2 cases. The central region is 7. Greater Accra by far the biggest number of cases with 882 there. If you go to the other regions, Upper West, for example, has 8, Upper East had 8, Upper Northeast has 2, and the Northern region has 11. Again, that figure, we got confirmation tonight that 2 more cases have been recorded following the tests that were done in KCCR in Kumasi, Komfo Teaching Hospital. So we expect this figure also to go up as and when the official figures are updated. The Volta region is 10 and the Western region is 1. We know this. So that is where we stand tonight when it comes to the COVID-19 with the country. Now, we know that the 3-week lockdown in Accra and Kumasi was lifted by the president on Monday. That was just yesterday, and you see the crowds there. Many concerned that that has its own implications. There have been mixed reactions since the lifting of the restrictions on movement. Many are opposed to it. The president insists it's the science that led him to make the decision primarily, with many suggesting that the lockdown should have been extended. In fact, the Ghana Medical Association's position has always been a nationwide lockdown. They did not get that. What they got rather was a complete reversal of the lockdown after the 1-week extension. They met the president yesterday, yet they have issues, concerns, but they say fundamentally they're going to back it. So tonight, they're going to be probing quite hard at the science behind the decision that the president took. Now, this is the point I was making. They had concerns. They believe that it's going to make their work even harder for them as they go about treating patients across the country. Now, the president says lots of considerations had to go into this. It's not just the science, but also the social economic impact on the poor and vulnerable. I mean, but what we really need to interrogate is which of these 2 factors, the science or the socioeconomic impact, which of these 2 factors tilted the scale really in favor of a lifting of a lockdown. The president started his addresses by telling us that every decision he took will be based on the science and the data. Is that what happened in this case? We'll try and find out tonight. So the key questions are obvious tonight. The question that many people have been asking. The beauty of tonight's show is we're going to be interrogating the brains behind the advice that the president has been getting and leading him to make the decision. So we can get into the president's mind, I guess, through theirs. You want to stay with us. And you are invited to send me your questions on the many platforms we've advertised, and I'm going to put it to my guests tonight. After the break, we get into the details. Stay with us. And you are live on PM Express tonight. My name is Evans Mensah, and my guest in the studio is Dr. Anthony Nsiah-Sarri. He is the presidential advisor on health, and he is in the studio with me. Now, we were billed to have Dr. Asamoah Bah, who is the coordinator for COVID-19 response program with the government, but I got news when Dr. Nsiah-Sarri came that he's been called into an emergency meeting because of his role as a coordinator with the president, and so could not make it into the studio tonight. Now, talking about having the conversation in the studio, the reason why I am wearing my face mask, and as you can see, Dr. Nsiah-Sarri is also wearing his. We are observing social distancing. Doc, correct me, this is clearly a meter plus. However, as the science keep evolving, we're learning about droplets not only falling beyond or within the 1 meter, but staying in the air and circulating that can be inhaled and also sometimes cause infection. And so it's better to be safe than sorry. And so we are wearing a face mask for tonight, and apologies for the look. Doc, thank you for joining us on PM Express.
Thank you, Evans.
We've advertised this as probing the science, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. I wanted to start with the president's decision that he took or announced to the country on Sunday. What would you say is the single most important scientific factor that led him to make that decision?
Yeah, thank you very much, Evans, and thanks also to all the viewers. Before I proceed, I would like to apologize on behalf of my colleague. In fact, we're both in a very crucial meeting to review whatever has happened since Sunday, and I have to take the lead and come here. And unfortunately, he may not be able to join us today. So that's why I came alone. We'll be working together, so we know everything, and we are closely working with each other. I'll start by saying that His Excellency the President, who is leading the war against this small creature called novel coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2, is led by His Excellency the President, and all the army is following him. He has a focus area that he's working of a lot of a strategy. And there are 6 core strategies that the president is using. The first one is to limit and stop importation. If you remember, he limits the importation because we knew from science, which I'll come to, that the first cases, or a lot of the cases that we have here, were imported into this country. And it is even confirmed by Noguchi Memorial Institute of Research that he has done the genome sequencing and found out that 15 cases that he picked, which are all positive, came from China, Denmark, and some from also, I think, Spain, and then another one from Turkey. So it means it didn't originate from here. So that's one of the signs that he has proven. And that's the reason why the president, in his wisdom, closed all borders, including both sea, land, and air. His second strategic objective, also to detect and contain all cases. And that's why we started with identification, and then we introduced what you call chase the virus. Trace whoever has come in contact with any patient who is positive, test the contact, and make sure that you contain also the disease, which will allow us to also contain it once you trace and test. So the whole idea was continue tracing. At first, we were tracing the people, watch them for about 14 days, keep on following them. If they develop symptoms and signs and symptoms, then we test them. But now what we are doing, especially in the 2 metropolises that was partially locked down, we trace them and test them immediately. When we started, a lot of people were saying that this is not scientific. But we've been proven right. There are only very few countries who have been doing that. Germany, Korea, Japan, and I think Singapore. Ghana is the only country, or one of the two countries. I'm sure South Africa is doing something like that. So we are the only countries who are doing that. And because of that,
you're testing people without symptoms.
We test people without symptoms, people who are contacts to somebody who is positive. And then when we lock Accra and Kumasi metropolis and Kaswa and the Kumasi, the contiguous districts and municipalities, we continuously and actively started testing all contacts.
Okay.
That's the reason why the president said that we have collected samples for about 86,000 people, and we tested nearly about 70,000 people. And from those tests, that's what we got that number, which was announced on Sunday, 1,042.
Okay, so that's a second
strategic objective. Okay. The third one is we want to slow down the community spread. And that's why we are practicing social distancing here. That's the reason why we've put in a lot of measures to wash your hands and then make sure that the markets are decongested, taxis are decongested, public transport are decongested. We don't want anybody to sit behind a motorcycle as a passenger.
Yeah.
So these are all ways of making sure that social distancing is practiced. The third one is the care of the sick. We didn't only test, or we are not only tracing and testing, but we trace, test, and if you are positive, we isolate you, take you from the community so that you don't infect other people. The science behind the whole of this illness is that if you are not very careful, you have an exponential positives in the community. And so if you remove the person who has tested positive from the community, and then you isolate the person, then
you make it impossible for him to spread it.
You are preventing the person from spreading, either he's symptomatic or asymptomatic.
Good.
Because once you have the virus in your system, it means you can infect. The next one is we also look at the impact on social and economic life. And that one is also science, because it's social science. And it's economics. So they are all science. It's not health science. Because this disease is not only about health. It's about health, it's about the social life of the person, it's about the economic well-being of the person, it's about even food and agriculture.
Is that a final factor, though?
So that's a factor. The last one is, the president said that we have to use this to also build domestic capacity and become self-sufficient. That's the reason why now the masks that people are wearing are even manufactured in this country. So these are the 6 strategic objectives that the president accepted that this is how we are going to work.
This is what is influencing our war against coronavirus. Let me come back to the question that I asked earlier. The single most important scientific factor that informed his decision to lift the lockdown, what is it?
The scientific factor are multiple, not only the most scientific factor.
I mean, but the question is framed...
I don't know which question you are asking.
The question is framed on the assumption that there are multiple factors.
Yes.
But the single most important of those?
The single most important of those is we look at data.
Okay. Break down the data for us.
I'll break down the data for you. On Sunday, when the president announced, he announced also figures. He announced that we have tested over 68,000 of the 86,000 people that we have taken samples from. We got a positivity rate of about 1.5. That's about 1,042 of them were positive. So about 98.5 of the people tested at that time were negative and 1.5 positive. Secondly, if you look at the tests, you disaggregate the tests, you realize that 383 of those tested positive are people who have signs and symptoms. Either the person has traveled. These are all cumulative. So in Ghana, since we started testing from somewhere in February, when we noticed that there is coronavirus in the country and our neighboring countries are all having it, we didn't start testing on the 26th of April or 26th of March when the lockdown came in. We started testing as far back as February. We got the first 2 positive cases on the 12th of March this year. And since that time, we've had this number, including the enhanced testing, 1,042. out of the 1,042, 383 of them are people who have signs and symptoms, which fell sick, maybe traveled, came back, was not feeling well, and then went to the hospital or went to the testing center and was tested and found positive and maybe admitted or treated at home. That's about 33% of the number of people who were tested positive. 115 of these 1,042 are people who came in when the president, in I think the 5th address or so, locked down the airport and also closed the borders.
Land, sea.
Sea. So when he said it, we also put it in place that he announced it on the 21st of March. So on the 21st of March, all the flights which came after the announcement, most of the flight comes in the evening. And then the 22nd of March, because it started on the midnight of 23rd. So the president said that we are no more going to allow people to go home and go and do self-quarantine and then wait for 14 days, and if they have signs and symptoms, they come in. But the state will put them in hotels at the cost of the state. So we quarantine the passengers who came in the evening of 21st and the passengers who came in on 22nd, both morning and the evening. We quarantined 1,043 passengers. And then we tested them. When we tested them, initially we got 79 of them positive. So we took all of them to our treatment center and then put them on treatment. And we didn't allow the negatives to go home because you know that the incubation period is between 2 to about 14 days. So on the 14th day, we retested about 965 people left. And then we got out of them 26 of them who were positive. So we got 105 passengers who potentially would have gone into the community to spread the disease unknowingly because they didn't have signs and symptoms. Initially, what we were doing, which we started during the Ebola time, is to people pass through temperature, check your temperature. But that time I told everybody that checking the temperature is not diagnosing coronavirus. It's just making sure that one of the signs and symptoms, which is fever, if you have fever, then quickly we isolate you. We had about 3 or 4 people.
Then you test.
Then we test, which we isolated and tested them.
We started doing that and we moved
and then
away
moved
from
them
that.
to, yes. So we moved away from that and said that now we will quarantine everybody. And when we did that, we got 115 out of the passengers who have been potentially sick and then infected other people. Then there were 10 travelers or 10 people from Burkina Faso
who came in
Tamale. And they were also quarantined. That time, everybody has become a vigilante in his community.
So people reported it?
So people reported it. We quarantined them in the hotel at the expense of the state. We tested them, and all the 10 were positive. Unfortunately, one of them was a patient who used to come to Tamale Teaching Hospital for renal dialysis by the husband. And the other 7, one man and then 7 ladies, were also quarantined and tested, and they were all positive. So if you add the two together, we have 115 potential people who have infected people, because the Tamale people, they have also, we've traced their contacts from the hotel, and everybody, God being so good, was negative. So this number is also there. It's about 11 to 12, about 14% of the population, which have been potentially, they are not sick, but they were tested. The other people were when we locked down Kumasi, Greater Kumasi Metropolis, Accra Metropolis, including Kasoa. They are about 544 people, which forms about 67% of the of the number that we had. So it means that 54%, sorry. So if you add the 54% to the 13%, that's about 67%. So 67% of these people were people who are not sick. They don't have any signs and symptoms. So they, in medical terms, you say they are asymptomatic. So the only people who are symptomatic, who will have, they are sick, so they went to hospital, are the 383 people. So if you look at it, it is not like other states, like Italy, like UK, like USA, where people only are tested when they are sick. So if you see the numbers, that the numbers have increased from that time 641 to 1,042 to 831. First, so 641 to 831
to what we are now,
to 2042. Then everybody says that why is Mr. President unlocking the two areas where there are hotspots when the numbers are increasing? That's the reason why I've taken my time
to break it down
and tell you that if you look at it potentially, the people who are sick, who maybe would have said that the number of people who are sick is increasing, because that's what happens in other countries.
So back to the question I asked about the single most important factor. Are you saying that because this number you've identified, isolated, and taken them out of circulation,
yes,
that is
potentially we are not infecting the people? And secondly, because of the infectivity rate, the positivity rate, which is about 1.5% out of about 70,000 people tested.
Nearly 70,000.
Nearly 70,000. Which means that the number of people who get positive in Ghana is relatively low.
So in statistical terms, that's
significant.
Yeah.
Significant, very significant. And the third point is that in Ghana, we also realize that out of the 1,042, about 99 patients have been declared recovered.
Yeah.
Recovered means that you get the person who is positive, you test the person twice after 14 days,
and they have negative.
That is the WHO regulations. Then we declare them that they are recovered. And the third point is that out of this 10,042, which is the cumulative figure, and if you deduct the number of people who died, that's 9. And almost everyone who died has a comorbidity or has other underlying illness, other diabetes, hypertension, renal failure, renal disease, asthma, and the rest. So it means our patients are relatively well. So most of them don't have symptoms. Those who have symptoms,
and we still don't have anybody on ventilator.
Nobody so far. About I think 1 or 2 of them who died went on ventilator. So we want to catch them early and don't let them fall very sick and go on ventilator. That is not the case in the US.
Yeah. Or Italy.
That's not the case in
or
Italy.
Spain.
Or Spain.
Yeah.
Or on UK, where they are locking. You know, I'll quote WHO, the Director General. He said that locking alone doesn't solve a problem. If you lock and you don't do anything, you don't solve a problem.
You have to lock.
You have to
trap,
lock,
trace, test, isolate.
Isolate and treat.
Yeah.
And in Ghana, what we have done is doing the test triple T. I'll even add I. Trace, test, isolate, and treat.
So clearly the numbers inform the decision.
The numbers,
that is the science.
The first and the numbers inform the decision. The second point is the severity of the disease inform the decision. And the third one is the number of positivity also inform the decision. And the fourth one is that we've now seen the dynamics of the virus in Ghana.
So we can now predict and trace.
We have now predicted and trace. And then the fourth one is that we now know the hotspots within the hotspots.
Yeah.
We know that there are some people who came into the country, imported the disease into the country. We've traced them. We found other positives. And then we also did what we call parameter testing. When you got to Accra, for example, first time we saw that people there were a few cases, positive cases in Ayawaso West, some positive cases in Adenta, in Bawe, Weja Bawe. So when you go there, you see a positive case there, you see a contact. We then also do a parameter
and then trace them
as well.
Let's break down the numbers a bit. So the president, when he spoke, said you've traced some 86,000 contacts.
Yes.
Clarify that for me. Does that mean that this is the number of people you've tested?
The number of people you've taken samples from. You take first the samples.
Okay. So that is important because I wanted to clarify that. So 86,000 people you've taken samples from. Out of that, he says that you have the results from 68,501.
Yes.
Results from that.
Yes.
Now, so that means that, and you have a backlog of 18,000. We'll come to the 8,000. So the 68,591, those are the people you've tested and you have the results for.
You have the results for.
Question. Out of the 68,591 cases, are these individual single tests per person, or it includes duplicate tests for individuals?
It includes duplicate tests. Because as I said, when somebody is tested, and is isolated and being treated, after 14 days, we do a second test. The person can be positive. If he's positive, it's still counted as a test. So we don't count the individuals, we count number of tests.
Okay.
So what it means that the number of patients will definitely be less than the number of tests.
So just to break it down so that we understand, what it means is that if Evans Mensah tests today positive, you test me again. In fact, you test because we had cases where people test negative.
Yes.
You test them again, they turn positive.
It's likely.
It's
because
possible.
if you catch them early.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about 3 to 4 days.
And then to clear you do 2 tests.
2 tests.
So it's possible that for Evans Mensah, you might have tested me 4 times.
Yes. So
right?
you count it among the 68,000.
So it will be in counting it, you say 4 tests, not 1 test.
Yeah,
for Evans Mensah.
Yes, those that will do the repeat test to test negative, they use the same code number.
But when we are inputting it into the national testing figures,
we clean it. So we batch them together that he has been tested before.
Okay. So if this number includes the duplicates, I remember that you're doing your percentages for the number of infections, number of positive infections from that number. That can give you a false percentage figure.
No, that's what I said. Maybe I have to come back and tell you. What you do is that if the person tested at the same place and the test was done in such a way that there was no change in name and change in code number. There are some people who have gone around testing about 2 or 3 times that I tested here, but I forgot I'm going to test again. But if you test Evans Mensah and you are giving code number, for example, Noguchi gives NOVCO-2009- so and so number, you keep that, especially those who are under treatment. So you use the same code number for the person.
My question is, the 68,591 tests that we've done, it doesn't mean that we've tested 68,591 people. Correct?
Yes, it can be. Okay. It can be that way. Yeah.
In fact, that's what it is. That's what it is.
May mean that,
What it means is that we have tested less than that in terms of individual cases.
Yeah, but it's very few. It's only those maybe who are positive who will be tested 2 more times. Those who are negative test once. But unless
the reason why this question
tested.
Science. The reason why this question is important is in calculating your percentage, 1.5% positive.
Yes.
From this, that 1.5 positive, which many look at and say, yeah, if that's the case, then it's okay to lift. If you actually do the individual tests and that's what you use, that number could change.
Yeah, it may be lower. But it means that
it could change.
It means that if the person was tested twice and we took it as twice positive, but we would have asked as only 1 person positive, it means there will be less people who have tested positive.
Yes.
But there will be more tests. The test will remain the same.
No, the test could go down.
No, the test may be the same because
the test will definitely go down.
No, you are doing tests.
If you're just doing the test.
You are doing tests.
Yeah.
So you do the test, and then when you finish the test, and there are more. Maybe 1 person has tested positive twice, and you are counting it as a person. It means that the number of positivity will go down, but not the test.
Why don't we just use individual tests instead of the duplicate tests?
No, I mean, don't let us dwell too much on duplicate
but that is important.
Because the problem is that...
Because you see, the president said, for example, that we are leading on the continent when it comes to testing, right? And you use that to say we've tested 68,000 per population. But that includes duplicate tests. I mean, so that then, if you disaggregate the numbers, could pose a challenge to that.
We've done tests. That's the most important thing. Every test that you do comes with a cost. So if I'm the manager and I'm buying test kits, I buy test kits and I know that if somebody is positive, I'll test 3 times to declare the person recovered. So when I'm counting the number of tests that I've done, I'll count the number of tests that I've done. But when I'm disaggregating, then I'll take the individual because they will have the same test kit code. But the number of tests that I've done is actually the cost of the reagents and the cost of tests.
So at what point do you disaggregate then?
It's when it comes to Ghana Health Service, they disaggregate it to make sure that the testing which are done
but
will
you
be
don't
the same
think in communicating to the public, you need to give us that information too?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you now.
But we should have known before. Definitely.
That's what I'm telling you now.
In the interest of being candid and honest. Remember that. Listen to the way you started this whole campaign.
Yes.
You promised us honesty, data. So you introduced briefings. So this is definitely a fundamental piece of data that we need to know.
Evans, that's why 2
months into the campaign. That's
why I'm giving you the data. Don't discount the number of tests you've done in this country. Don't discount the number of tests we've done in this country. We are testing, and we are testing. There are some cases that they have. There was one country where they asked how many positive. You are the only African country which have not have positive. Say yes.
Because you don't test.
Because I haven't tested. Because I don't have money to buy any test. But we are investing in testing. So the number of people that we test, or the number of tests that we do, is very important. It's very important. But from your analogy, if you are looking at the negative cases or the positive cases, it means maybe somebody who tested positive and is retested again will be another positive. But that person is counted twice as positive. It even will increase the number of percentage of positivity. So that one is the science which even makes it even easier, that even though maybe the 1.5 may be even lower positivity than what we are talking about. But if you, I know where you are coming from, because I have heard people who are saying that we cannot do that number of tests.
Can we?
Yes, because...
What is the capacity of, I mean, just to clear this before we go, because of the interest in the public in the actual scientific data. Henceforth, you said now that you're now telling us about this disaggregation. Henceforth, going forward, will there be a regular part of the briefing so we know the real actual numbers?
We can disaggregate it and tell you the number of the people who have been tested on the first occasion, second occasion, third occasion, or maybe fourth occasion. It's better, you can do that. We have all the data there. But we just tell you the number of tests that we have done, the number of positive which has come of it. So I'm sure tomorrow, the Noguchi, the test people will tell you how it is done. But we have tested this number. I'm sure today, we are doing the data. Very soon we'll put it out. You realize that the test has even gone up.
Okay.
Because now we have Noguchi testing, we have KCCR testing, we have the National Public Health Lab in Korle Bu also testing.
When did they come on?
National Public Health Lab came on about 2 weeks ago. We have the Veterinary Service Division, Department also testing in Accra. We also have the CSR, which is also on board testing.
But they haven't started yet.
CSR
hasn't started yet.
The
president announced that they are going to start
but VSD has started.
Okay, so let's break that down. What is the capacity of Noguchi as of tonight?
As of tonight, how many they test?
Yes, capacity to test.
Noguchi, maybe I can give you the figures. Let me have a look at it and I'll give you the figures. Noguchi has tested so far, I'll give you...
But do we know sort of how many they can test a day? The capacity to test, the daily test capacity?
Yes, Noguchi can test. They test over, I don't want to hazard a guess. I'm sure tomorrow there will be a section, and I'm sure at the press conference where the Noguchi director in charge of head in charge of virology will give you the number of tests that they do, how they batch it and test it, and then when it is positive, they redo it again, pick it one by one and do it so that they get the positivity right. So they will tell you, but. You see, I'm surprised. I'll give you the number of tests that all these people did within the distance. For example, yesterday, the National Public Health Laboratory, a research lab, at Korle Bu, did a total of 466 sample test results which were released. And then the cumulative test that National Public Health Reference Lab has done for the past, I think, 10 days or so, or the past 1 week or so, was 3,111. The total number of tests that VSD has done up to date is 1,931. The total number of tests KCCR has also done, as at yesterday, was 17,491. And today I know that they've done a lot of tests. The backlog is being cleared. And Noguchi one, I don't have it offhand, but Noguchi has done a lot of tests as at today.
Because that is important, so we could all be on the same page.
But I think Noguchi will be the right person to tell you.
Now, there remains 18,000 tests, the results are yet to receive, as the president announced. Question is, where are these 18,000 people waiting for their results? Are they in self-quarantine or mandatory quarantine?
The 18,000 who are receiving
that they're waiting the results for. Where are they? Are they in self-quarantine or mandatory?
Yes, they are normally advised to be in self-quarantine at home until the results come. That's the reason why we are bringing on board a lot of laboratories so we can finish all the tests and then we can have daily tests being done.
Do we know where they are?
Where they are?
The 18,000. The 18,000 people that we are waiting the results for.
They will be at home.
At home.
It is when we are positive, then you pick you out and then we isolate you.
But remember the objective you set out is to catch them before the show.
Yes, so catch them.
So
test them.
So what's the protocol when you're waiting results? When you've tested me, I'm waiting results. What is the protocol for me?
The protocol is that you are advised that you have to keep yourself, if possible, away from the other people until your test come.
Okay.
So the whole idea as a country is that we should all try, and we are trying to get a lot of test centers, both in the northern sector. I can tell you that we are bringing a test center on board in Tamale, one in Navrongo, one in Ho, one in Cape Coast, one in Takoradi, and then we add the CSR in Accra.
But that is an important.
And then we are going to also add about 90 or 100 test centers, or the TB.
The president mentioned
centers.
that. But that is an important point. When you're lifting the lockdown, you have to have something in place in case the president said you have a surge.
Yes.
One of the key things WHO has told us is testing must be adequately prepared. We don't have these testing centers decentralized yet. The president said he's going to come on board. So why did we take that decision when we don't have that in place in other regions? Today, in the northern region, they have 2 more cases. It took them 3 days to drive the sample to Kumasi and back. And the director says to us, it's a frustration to them because they don't have the testing capacity. You say you're going to have it soon.
Yes.
So why don't we wait for that to be in place before we...
Was Northern region locked down?
No.
So so the analogy doesn't work.
No, I'm talking about.
No, I'm telling you.
We're talking about Greater Accra.
Yeah, Greater
Accra. We're talking about Greater Accra and Kumasi.
Yes.
However, as we know, I'm talking about testing across the country.
Yes.
I'm talking about the global picture, right? I'm talking about global picture. And remember that there are people. Remember what happened when you announced the lockdown? People traveled.
Yes.
President was concerned about that.
Yes.
Right? And then we saw the infections now starting across.
Yes.
You're lifting the lockdown, which means that people are going to travel. People are going to travel to the north. They're going to travel to all the parts of the country. That's an effect. That it comes back to the WHO point. Before you do that, wherever you lock down, you're lifting, you must have these things in place.
WHO said that if you're locking, you should test.
When you are lifting the restrictions.
And we are testing. We haven't stopped the testing.
But you're testing.
We haven't stopped. You see, before them.
The testing is limited.
Before them, the testing is not limited.
Across
we are doing massive testing. Say that the testing is not limited because arrangements were there before to do the testing at the designated size. What we are doing is that we want to improve the testing. You start from somewhere and you improve it. Tamale was not locked down.
But you see the point I made about people traveling.
Tamale was not locked down. When Tamale was not locked down, they were also traveling to Upper East, Upper West, and everywhere. Yeah,
but you locked down Accra and Kumasi for a reason.
Yes, you locked down Accra and Kumasi
because
for a reason.
Because you are hotspots.
Yes.
But once you lift the lockdown, remember your part of the lockdown is that you can't travel out of these restrictions to other parts of the country.
Yes.
So once you lift the lockdown, all these asymptomatic patients can travel to Tamale. And they can spread that disease even further. Meanwhile, Tamale hasn't got the capacity to do their own testing and isolate. We now have 10 regions with cases. Is Dr. Nsiansari telling me that the 6 regions don't have cases at all, or is it because we're not testing yet there?
The 6 regions, we are doing enhanced surveillance there. They have not tested any case. They have not tested any positive case. That's Bron East, Ahafo, Oti, and Northwest. Northern West, yes. Not that they are not doing anything. You see, what we did in Accra because we said Accra and Kumasi were hotspots, so we were trying to chase and look for the contacts, and they use that one to learn the dynamics of the disease. We want to also see the footprints of the virus, how the virus moves. We had heat maps that we can even tell you the street that we found somebody who is positive there, and they chase the person. We are using the same system and the same method in Eastern region. Eastern region has 51 cases. You know that. When we were locking down Kumasi didn't have 51 cases. But we didn't lock down Eastern region because the cases that we were finding in Eastern region, we know where they were. There was an Indian who brought it to a community where there's a camp. They were secluded. We know where they are, and then even the town people were also tested, and we found 51. About 50 of them. One of the cases is not from from Begro. So we said that we've now seen the dynamics of the disease. We've seen how the virus behaves in the hotspots. So we are going to use the same enhanced surveillance test, trace, test, and treat, even though under unlocked situations. And that is exactly what we are doing. So whatever we did in Eastern region, we can do it in other regions. And that, when we were doing that, it didn't mean that there was no surveillance system going on. Every region has a surveillance team. Every region was tracing everybody.
The challenge, though, is it's taking days now for the regions to get the test results in. Days. I mean, today, for example, in the northern region, you have 2 cases there now. It took 3 days to get the results. In fact, yesterday the GMA said some of the health workers, when they take their results, some of them are getting it in 8 days. That definitely, it's not a...
Yeah, but those health workers are quarantined.
That's health workers.
Quarantine all of them. It's expensive to us. The other people who are not quarantined...
But why is it taking that long?
Yeah, because, I mean, there's a backlog. The president told you there's a backlog of about how many? 18,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the president told you the truth, what is there. And that's the reason why we are bringing a lot of laboratories on board, so that we will not have backlog and everybody can even very soon...
When would these 100 labs actually be working?
It is gene expert machines. There's a manufacturer who is now manufacturing the reagents that you use, the test kits that you use, and it will come, I know, at the end of the month.
The president...
So once it comes, most of the district can be doing the tests.
When he imposed a lockdown, he asked us to stay at home because, quote, the virus moves only when you move.
Yes.
How do you reconcile that with the decision to lift the restrictions on movement?
The president also added that we'll be watching. So and he also added that if you don't have anything to do, you don't have to go to work, or you are working from home, you don't have anything to do in town, stay at home. If anybody, or if you see that any district or any locality has an upsurge, or they are not applying and then also doing the social distancing, he will not hesitate to lock that district or that locality down in addition to a curfew. So everybody is watching out, and I can tell you that in this country, people see the results and everybody is guiding him or herself. And apart from that, we say that the unlocking and the locking is backed by science. I think I've told you all what we have done for the measures.
But also the quotes I give you is science. The science about if the virus moves.
The science can be social science. If you say science, you're not talking about health science.
I know what I'm saying.
You're not talking about health science.
I'm talking about, I'm giving you the president's own quote.
Yes.
The virus only moves when you move.
Yes.
He's lifted the lockdown for us to move.
Yes.
That means that he expects the virus to move.
No.
He says the virus moves only when you move.
Yes, so you move.
He's lifted the lockdown.
Yes.
The virus will move.
Yes. The virus will not move when you don't go and bring the virus. That's the reason why it's not only the movement.
But you've lifted the restrictions on movement.
Social distancing, and also hand wash and hand hygiene.
Yeah, but that's not the president's word was about movement.
And the president, when the president said the movement, it means the virus has no legs. It's a human being. It's a human being who go to take the virus and bring the virus home.
Yes, but
and that's why the president
he's lifted the restrictions on movement.
He's lifted the restriction on lockdown.
Well,
which is restriction of movement.
In fact, the right word is restrictions on movement. That's what he used.
Yeah,
not
restriction
lockdown. Lockdown has become the media's word.
Restriction of movement means
so that. So we are moving now.
Yeah, restriction of movement doesn't mean even during the lockdown, Evans, didn't you open the markets?
Yeah, but
were people not moving to the markets to go and buy foodstuffs?
People were turned away.
Were people not going? No.
People were turned away.
Yes, you'll be turned away if you have nothing to do in the market.
Most definitely.
Yes.
But now
But people went to the market.
Yeah.
So there was not absolute lockdown. Not that nobody should move.
But now
if nobody should move, Evans, you couldn't have come here to do program.
Now there is an absolute lift of the lockdown.
Yes.
And the movement is now.
And he added that if you have nothing particular to do in town, don't go.
That's a plea.
If you are going,
that's not been enforced.
It's enforced. If you are going,
nobody's enforcing that.
Have you seen anybody sitting in the taxis 3 and 5 in the taxi?
I have seen today
5 in the taxi,
4 at the back, 2 in front.
Evans, I'm sure it is an exception.
No, but I have seen it.
I've also been in town.
I have seen people.
Evans,
in fact, we've been to the market.
Evans,
we've been to the market.
Yes.
We've been to Medina Market.
Yes.
Kumasi Market.
Yes.
People are not observing social distancing there. The evidence is that. In fact, in the Ashanti region, the minister says they will have to close on some of the markets because of that. In fact, they have to turn people out. Right?
Yes.
But that's my point I'm making. People are not observing the appeal. They're not taking the precedence.
You see, this fight is not a fight that you can do and just allow people to go. People should be disciplined. This fight is a fight for everybody. It's a cooperative fight that we should all fight. And it's a fight that everybody should be very disciplined. You don't have to get a policeman or an army man to tell you not to do what you are supposed to do. That is the point of the matter. But I'm stressing again that it was restriction of movement, but it was not a total restriction and nobody should move anywhere. If there was total restriction and nobody should move anywhere, if you couldn't have come here during the lockdown period to come and do a program.
There were exemptions. But
yes.
The two scenarios are completely different. The president imposed a restriction based on law. He's lifted that.
Yes.
So you cannot really compare the two scenarios.
What 2 scenarios?
The scenario before the lockdown, during the lockdown, and post the lockdown.
Yes.
They're 2 different scenarios.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you do and then move out anytime that you like. He has appealed to everybody.
Let's talk about that, because the GMA says this is the time that you need the police, the military, to be enforcing the social distancing and the wearing of masks.
I think this is a time that every Ghanaian should know that the responsibility of your health, the health is your own responsibility as well as the government and the health sector's responsibility. So everybody should be disciplined. We are not in a police state. So I expect that everybody should be disciplined. In fact, we have a new norm in this country. It's a new normal. Did you imagine that people will be coming to Joy FM and then washing your hands with water and soap? But now everybody does it. Now, if you are talking to anybody, he makes sure that he has a distance. A few people who don't know, you tell them. Have you seen anybody embracing anybody and greeting? No. So we are building a new normal in this country. And he doesn't need a security person, doesn't need a soldier to come and then follow you. And the president also added, if you have a reason to go out or go anywhere, put on something to cover your nose and mouth, which you call a mask.
You mentioned social science, and then we've talked about the science, the hard, science throughout, the pure science. Between the two, what tilted the scale?
Both.
But,
you use a science.
But that will be a contradiction of the president's own initial word to us in his first speech. He says, my decision will be based on the data and the science.
Yes, but the social science is science.
Yeah, but I gave you 2 options. No, and you said both.
No, social science,
he gave us the hard, he says hard data and the science.
You see, in health is not only pure physics, chemistry, and biology science. Health is also social science, psychology, the way of living of the people.
But can it be both?
Because
one comes with the implication of death, finality to life. The other one, you can manage that. That's the question. Must it be both? Must it give the equal weighting to both?
Do you know that hunger can kill?
We're talking about coronavirus.
No, hunger can kill more than coronavirus.
So
more nutrition children die more than coronavirus.
But is that? But should that be?
How many people have died of coronavirus, even worldwide?
As a scientist,
look at how many people who died from Ebola, people who died from SARS. It's not like coronavirus. Coronavirus infects very fast. But malaria, TB, measles, and hunger, malnutrition of children kill more than coronavirus. So if you are not very careful, that's why I say that both. That's why I say
equal weight, equal significance?
Yes, because it works together. It integrates. If somebody cannot feed himself, or somebody can become psychological because you have locked the person in the house, that don't go out, total lockdown, don't move to anywhere, the person can have psychological problems. The person may not. You see, maybe you don't feel it, but the ordinary person, you can give the ordinary person food to eat. You can give the ordinary person some
But Mrs.
rations.
the bit about the hunger, you can solve with essential social intervention measures.
Yes. What about the father and the mother and the old father, old mother, the grandmother at home that he sends stipends to? Have you thought about that?
Well, that is why governments put in place social intervention measures to target the poor.
Yes, but it is not how many people will get the social intervention. Do you have a means in Ghana to do a means test to know the people who need the
You must
listen?
have that.
It is a system that we have. Everybody
you have a leap.
It's a system it's a system that everybody have come to meet. Secondly, the pandemic in Ghana, I can tell you, with all confidence, looking at the data, that it's not as severe as the pandemic in other parts of the world. There are two reasons for it. Ghana, or in Africa, we have a very youthful population. Are you aware of that?
True.
We have a lot in Africa.
In fact, Africa is the average age should be around 90 or 80.
Yes. The immunity of such people, they are active and everything, is higher than, for example, somebody who's about 80, 90 years. The people who are succumbing to this illness or this virus are mainly people who are aged in UK, Europe, and Asia. So that's a fact. In Ghana, as we speak now, there are 4 people who are in critical conditions. They are not even on ventilator. They are not on. They are not intubated. We are looking at them as a moderate to critical cases. But if you go to Italy, they are looking for beds for patients to go into critical care. That's what they don't have. So if you're looking at all these things, you should also measure it with the social science. That's why I say both. You should look at the social and the economic well-being of the people. How many people are having the toll during this period? You should look at all these things and balance the two. That's exactly what the president said, that he will use data and he will use science. And when he say you use science, we use both. You see, I've told you the strategic overview of the president. There's a lot of social science in it. There's social science aspect of it. There's economic aspect of it. There is also even manufacturing aspect of it, because he said that we have to build a domestic capacity and self-reliance. Who told you in Ghana that we can be about 17 companies overnight can register for sanitizers for people to use?
So let's go back to let's stay with this a bit more. So now that you've lifted the movement, you must be expecting more infections.
We are not expecting more infection.
You're not?
We have removed them. We have removed the restriction in these 2 areas. We are continuing to observe all the measures that we have.
You don't expect more infections because you've lifted the lockdown?
Because we know the dynamics of the disease.
But you're saying categorically, as a man of science,
I said that
you don't expect more infections.
We don't expect more serious infection. Maybe I have to add a serious.
Yeah, I mean, but my question is,
we will get more positives coming out.
Yeah, but that's my question to you. So you expect more positive cases?
Yeah, but positive doesn't mean that the patient is ill.
No, but that's not my question. I mean, my question is simply about, are you expecting more infections as a result of the
We will expect to get more positive because you have backlog.
I'm not talking about the backlog. I'm talking about more fresh new infections.
That's why I said that let's disaggregate the types of infection that you are positive that you are getting. Are they positive patients who are walking into hospital for hospital admission because they are sick, or are they more positive that are coming out from people who didn't know and they are asymptomatic?
I'm talking
that you are picking out and then isolating them and treating them.
I'm talking about what you're doing. You're targeting asymptomatic patients before they get sick.
You are targeting asymptomatic
before they get sick.
Before they get sick.
That is my question. Are you expecting more positive cases among that group?
Yes, because we have a backlog. We expect to see more positive cases.
So you have a backlog of 18,000.
Yes.
Are you saying that you're just expecting from the 18, that's all you expect? Beyond which, because you've lifted the lockdown, you don't expect any more infections, community infections in Ghana?
That's why we are watching. We cannot tell because it's a new virus.
But my question is simple.
It's a new virus.
Are you expecting, just if I may ask the question again, are you expecting, beyond the backlog, because you've lifted the movement, more community infections because people can now move?
We are expecting some positive cases because we are doing enhanced contact tracing and testing.
But not because people can now move and the virus is moving with them.
If somebody moves and the person is negative, is it going to infect anybody? If you have moved, for example, in this community...
But that is something, a factor you don't know.
If you have moved, if you are in this community...
It's a factor you don't know.
I'm telling you something. If you are in this community and everybody who is here has been tested and we are all negative, and we are sitting in this house, do you expect that if I move and I have to wear my mask and I'm doing social distancing, I'm washing my hands, using my sanitizer, then I'll go and get the disease somewhere? The possibility of getting it, yes.
Yeah, but we're talking possibility. I'm talking about science. My question to you is that the WHO has said, and we've seen elsewhere, and again, we're studying the virus as it moves. China has shown that. You lift the restrictions. We've seen surges in places.
Yes. From China, from importation.
From importation, yes.
Yes. But our borders are closed.
We've seen in South Korea.
Yes.
They lifted the restrictions.
Yes.
They all expect some cases. In fact, there's modeling that they do. When we lift the restrictions, this is what we expect will happen. What is our modeling telling us?
Our modeling is that we've lifted the restricted lockdown in Accra and Kumasi, not the whole country. We expect to see that the positives may go somewhere, but it's like a bushfire. So the bushfires will be quenched. If you allow bushfires to become very big, it's difficult to contain it. So we have plans for containment, and the plan for containment is to look out, pick everybody who is coming in.
That plan for containment, how many is based on how many projected cases?
You see, if you have, the population is such that we have 30 million population here. We expect that about 10% of the population may be infected. And out of the 10% of the population,
so is that our projection?
Yes, we have that projection.
Okay.
Out of the 10%.
So no, I'm just hoping that this is not this is what we projected.
It's not hypothesis. That's what.
So Ghana is projecting that 10% of the 30 million population will be infected.
I'm coming. 10% may become positive, but out of the 10%, 80% of them may not show any signs and symptoms at all.
So that is our projection.
And 5% of them will be very ill.
Okay.
That's the projection.
So let me break it down. This is important.
That's the reason why
I'm just hearing this for the first time, so it's important just to break it down.
Yes.
Our projection, our modeling says we expect 10% of the population to be infected, positive. 80% of them will not be critical.
Yes, that's the projection.
5% will get critical.
Yes.
How many do you expect to die?
If you look at it, I think about 5%, the 5% who get critical, about 10% of them would die. That's how it is. That's how the modeling is.
Sorry,
that's how the modeling is.
Okay.
So, but because what we have seen in Ghana, and for that matter in Africa, that this modeling will not even be the case in Africa, because we are not seeing critical cases. And I've given you the reason, and if you look at the cases that you are seeing, the number of people who are in critical condition is very, very small.
Yeah.
Even out of the 1,042 that you had, or those who have symptoms of 380, 4 of them, sometimes 2, 9 of them, unfortunately, have lost their lives. So it means we have a situation where this hypothesis may not be the case in Ghana.
But you're preparing
but
for
we are
this.
preparing for this.
Okay.
And because we are preparing for this, that's the reason why we have opened up, get more testing areas so that we follow what WHO has been saying, what other countries did, and then make sure that we also prevent importation while the disease is raging on. But I can tell you, Evans, coronavirus, COVID-2, or novel coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2 will not be with us forever, like any other flu viruses.
So
and it will come, and then eventually.
When do you expect to hit your peak, Ghana?
Let's continue the testing, then we see when we peak.
But you know, other countries have done projections to the T.
And what has happened to them?
I'm talking about just for planning purposes.
No, I'm coming. When they say that they will reach their peak on this day, have they reached their peak or they've passed?
But at least they had a projection. Do we know what?
That's why I'm saying that we are planning for the West. We are planning for an upsurge. If there's an upsurge, we are planning.
Are we out of peak? We are not out of peak yet, definitely.
No,
we are 1.5.
1.5.
So
we may not even reach more than 1.5.
But you're planning for 10%.
But we plan that maybe let's look at 10% of the cases. But
do you have a rough idea? Do you have a rough idea when you expect to hit this peak of 10%, and then
we may not reach there. Where I sit, and what I see, I don't believe that we even will reach even 5%.
You're a man of science. I know you plan for contingency. Yes, I'm asking for the contingency.
We've planned for an upsurge. We've planned for.
I'm asking you when do you hope?
We plan for it.
When do you plan?
But I won't give you time so that we say that Dr. Nsiah came and sat down here that we'll reach our peak in next month or next 2 months.
We all know it's an estimate, and this is a virus.
This is a new virus.
Exactly.
Nobody can tell you
but that question is based on that premise.
No, nobody can tell you that he knows about the virus. We are all learning. All the theories and then the conspiracy theories and everything about the virus is something that nobody knows about it. If there's anybody who knows about the virus, any country who knows about the virus, maybe China has more experience than anybody. So we follow exactly what everybody is doing. WHO said you lock down and you unlock by making sure that you are testing, you are tracing, and you are treating. That's exactly what we are doing.
But let's we'll go for a quick break. But just before we go, I just wanted to clarify for me the question about the test and the duplicate number. So what is the real number then of tests we've done for the 68,591 individual cases? Do we know?
No, I can't tell you because I think those who are doing the tests will know the number of people that we've done about 2 or 3 tests for, and they disaggregate it. Then that's why we can tell you. But I cannot sit down here and tell you maybe 100 tests or 200 tests or so. Because the 99 cases like this, we've tested them at least 3 times.
Yes.
At least 3 times.
So in the 18,000 backlog we have, it includes duplicates.
I don't understand what you are talking about.
No, sorry. You know what I mean. It includes the duplicate tests.
Yes, it includes those who have done the 14 days mandatory treatment, or they've done treatment for 14 days and we've repeated the test. Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me when we can get that breakdown of the actual individual tests?
That one can be done by the people who are doing the test, because they have the figures, they have everything, and they can tell you that we did this number of tests today. This number of the tests are people who have maybe finished treatment and then they are positive or negative, and then we repeated the treatment this day. I cannot sit here and give you that.
How many test kits do we have now? As a country?
Test kits?
Yeah.
I know that.
What is the testing capacity, I guess, is the question I'm asking. How many?
I can tell you that we have enough test kits to do the test.
Can you put a number to it?
I don't have to quote the number to you. We are buying.
As of today.
Let me tell you something. I haven't taken inventory of all the test kits that we have, but I have run a hospital before. If you buy about 5,000 test kits today and you do 2,000 tests, it means you have 3,000 tests left. You continuously be buying, and that's what the government is doing. Government is invested into the testing. Government has invested into the tracing. Government has invested into the treatment.
My question.
But if you ask me how many test kits that you have, you are not being very fair to me, Evans. Because if you ask me, how many tests do you have? There are about 5 centers who are testing now, 4 centers who are testing now.
And government providing the test kits for them.
Yes, so I don't have to every day go in around and say that how many test kits do you have? How many test kits do you have? But they replenish all the stock that they have so that they don't run out of test kits. And I don't think
the Jack Ma Foundation gave us for 50,000 test kits, correct? If I'm not
I
mistaken.
know Jack Ma Foundation brought us 21,000 test kits. And the government has also procured a lot of test kits.
How many?
Government has continuously been procuring a lot of test kits. So when the test kits, the number of test kits that they have in the centers go down, the government continuously.
But that is why I guess I'm asking you, where are we now with that, with the test kits that we have in terms of numbers? Because that will inform your decision to buy more or not buy.
We are buying because we want to test. So that's why I'm saying that we continuously be replenishing the test kits that we have so that we don't run out of test kits.
Yes, but that's why I'm asking you, how
so
many
if you ask me how many, you are being very unfair, giving me a very unfair question. Because how will I tell you that?
Why is that unfair?
No, because how can I tell you that you have 20,000 test kits when I haven't gone round or haven't asked them to give me?
So that is clarity. It's a case of we don't know now. We can check for you later.
We know, and Noguchi can give us, and then KCCR can give you a number of test kits, okay, which I can ask.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get some of your questions in. A number of your colleague doctors have sent a few about what you're doing for the doctors. I'll put that to you when we return. And of course, a few of you have also sent us. I'll put to the presidential advisor on health, Dr. Nsia Sari, when we return for the break. Stay with us. And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. And pardon my face mask. It has to be done because I have Dr. Nsia Sari, who's also wearing a face mask, his face mask in the studio. I'm grateful that you join us. It's taking our questions on the COVID-19 as we look at the science. Before we went to break, I was saying that I'm going to take some of your questions, and I'm going to do that now. But there are a few questions from a few of your doctor colleagues.
Maybe before you go, let's add something about moving and then bringing the virus. You see, if you move and you move with your face mask, you wash your hands with water and soap, and then you also use sanitizer, you don't bring virus home. That's why I say that it depends on somebody who is moving without observing the new normal. So that's if the restriction of movement is removed and you go to town. In the first place, if you don't have anything to do in town, you don't go. Especially if you have underlying illness and you are elderly. If I'm the one, I won't go to town for anything. 2, if you want to move, try and wear the mask, which the president also said that everybody should, as much as possible, wear a mask. Yesterday, when we met the GMA, they were telling us that as much as possible, because of
everybody who comes to the hospital
should wear a mask.
Yes.
And His Excellency the President agreed with them.
And we are waiting for the guidelines from the Ghana Health Service.
Yes, and we are waiting for the guideline for the wearing.
Do you know when it's going
masks.
to come out?
Today, we will discuss it. I'm sure by tomorrow morning it will come out. Okay. So that everybody will know the guidelines of wearing masks. At least, if you are wearing masks, I'm wearing masks. When I'm talking and maybe I cough, you will not get it because you are protected. I'm also protected. If for nothing at all, both of us will be protected. If I come and sit here and I'll go home, you see, when the reason why we get all these things, the droplets, and then you touch your hands, when you are sitting down, we will be touching your nose, your glasses, your mouth, and all sorts of things. So as much as possible, if we have nothing at all, at least sanitizer. Luckily, the sanitizer is now being made in Ghana.
I have a locally made one.
Yes, you have locally made.
I bought some for my friends.
And before when you go home, you wash your hands with water and soap.
Yes.
And then go and bath.
True.
When I reach out my house, the first thing my wife tells me, go straight and go and wash your hands. Sometimes if I forget, then go and shower before you come. That is how you prevent taking the virus from outside to your home.
So you can move.
You can move,
and take those
but
precautions.
You take all these precautions. And the president didn't remove the precaution. He even added another one. Mask wearing.
Yeah,
that's what Germany has done. Yeah. We are following the best practices of other countries. The other countries, the big countries like UK and US, they don't have those.
I guess the point you're making, lockdown is not the only measure to controlling it.
Yeah, lockdown is not the only measure. And especially if you lock down, you don't do anything. It's not useful.
WHO has made a point.
Yes,
let me ask you this. Why are we not getting daily real-time updates on our cases on the Ghana Health Service page?
We are working on that. You see, it's because we have to aggregate all the figures from both Kumasi and everything. What we are trying to do is now we are also digitalizing a lot of things so that we can sit in the presidency, in my office. We are also opening a room where we can get all this in real time on our computers, and the president can even see real time. When you do that way, it will automatically be on the Ghana Health Service website. But I think we should also move away now from seeing figures and then shouting, hey,
but if you're updating it automatically, that will kill that.
We should reach a stage where we have to also even send things which are even better analyzed. So that if you see that the cases have moved from this to this, as I explained to you today, then 383 of them from Sunday were cases which people fall sick and all sorts of things, who went to hospital or get tested. Or these are cases which we are doing enhanced testing and then getting the cases. They are two different cases altogether. So we are doing all these things, and very soon, I'm sure within a matter of a week or so, our digital system will be working so that we have a real-time data coming out.
But my question to you is, when the president did his address on Sunday evening,
yes,
he announced a 1,042 figure.
Yes, he announced 1,042.
But it was on the website, which means you knew before he gave the address. Why didn't you put it on the website?
Oh, president is coming to announce whatever he has to announce. We don't have to take the lead. If you remember, immediately the president finished, it was put on the website.
Yeah. But
that's the reason.
I'm struggling to understand that.
No, why do I struggle to understand it?
Between the president speaks once a week.
Yeah, but
we cannot wait for a week to get an update from the president on the numbers.
But we've been putting updates on the website before the president.
That is why I'm asking the question. So why was the exception made in this case?
That day we gave the figures and everything to the president to announce. And then when you finish, you put it on the website. I'm not saying we. The Ghana Health Service put it on the website. Ghana Health Service website.
Because you see, since the president announced,
yes,
it's been 48 hours.
Yes.
The figure hasn't updated, but that doesn't mean that in 48 hours we haven't recorded any case.
The figure will be updated today.
Okay.
To be updated today. So we are finding a way that, I mean, you can see it like WHO reporting. If it's one case, it's one case.
You see why that is
possible to happen.
Because it was a big deal in China when they say in 24 hours they have recorded no new case. So, because everybody's watching the official page.
Yes.
So the report might read, in 48 hours, Ghana has recorded no new case. But that is not the truth.
It will happen very soon. When we finish all the backlog, then we have daily samples taken and then daily reports coming. So we are bridging up that gap.
An important question that one of your colleagues is asking tonight is, has anyone been brought in dead at our health facilities since COVID-19 and post that been found to have died because of COVID-19?
Yes, I think we have one patient that I know of in Northeast. He was brought in. He's an asthmatic patient. He brought in and not brought in dead, but I think he died immediately he reached the hospital. Okay. Our samples were taken because he has signs and symptoms of COVID-19.
Was that factored into the number of deaths?
Yes, it's part of the number of deaths.
Okay, but do we have already people who have been brought to the hospital dead, and you know what I mean, and we decided to test to see why he died and found out that it's COVID-19?
No.
Okay. Not that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Because it's important then, you know, because I mean, because in the UK people are dying in their homes. I've seen cases like that, and they are not being added to the figures, and so that is creating a problem as well.
No, when it comes to hospital and you suspect COVID-19, and we test you, and unfortunately, maybe the patient dies after that, it's added to the case that we have.
But we don't have one yet that has been added to the 9.
No, dying at home.
At home, yes. And being found out later that he may have died of COVID-19.
How do you find out that he died of COVID-19? So somebody died at home,
maybe families raise the symptoms and etc.
It's brought in dead.
Okay.
And that's why it's corona case.
I want to bring in a few of our questions from social media. I'll put it up on the screen so we could get this one says, why lift the lockdown when COVID-19 cases keep increasing? Easing lockdown restrictions should be step by step. Germany should be a case study for Ghana. Wearing of masks should also be compulsory in Ghana. That is TESOL in Germany. My question is, how did they arrive at the total tested persons of 68,000? I think he's explained that. Hello, my question for today is why was the GMA consulted after the decision to lift the lockdown and not the Public Health Association?
What does it mean of that?
Not sure I get that. You know, the president met the GMA yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, but the purpose of that was to what? Convince them or to justify a decision to them?
Not convince them, inform them, because we are in this fight together. You see, that's why I say that this fight that you are fighting, it's not consensus building fight. It's everybody who play the part that he's supposed to play. So if you want to meet everybody and build consensus, that's not the way that you have to go. There's a commander-in-chief of Ghana.
Who takes the decision?
There's a president who takes the decision. So he decides that let's inform these people, let's inform these people. Everybody has heard that there is.
Do we know how many healthcare givers have been infected?
I can't tell you the figure. When you made GMA, they were telling us, but I know a few of them who have been infected one or the other. But we have to differentiate between either the person pick it up during the course of work or the person pick it up from maybe a family or friend.
Do we know how many picked it up as in the line of duty?
We are doing that study. We've told GMA to assist us. And then we also have asked the health facilities to also assist us to tell us those who had the disease in the course of working and those who pick it up, maybe they are health workers, but they pick it up not from the point of work, but maybe from home. Okay. I know about one or two whose
Do you have
came.
any strategy in place to have roll out priority testing for healthcare professionals in the front line? Because yesterday the GMA complained to us that some of their members get tested. It takes 8 days to get the results. I'm sure they probably would have mentioned it to you. Do you have priority testing for them?
I will not say we have. Yes, we have. In fact, let me tell you, I've worked in the health system for a long time. Every health worker has a priority in everything that we are doing.
But this case is specific with COVID-19.
Specific COVID-19, if you know, I'm sure, because most of the tests are taken at the facility level. So by all means, they will send that test as a SOS.
But do we have that for them?
But what you do is that anybody that we suspect or has been erroneously or mistakenly being exposed, we normally quarantine them, sometimes at the cost of the hospital or at the state, to make sure that the test comes before the people are released. In fact, what we should be doing for health workers, which when the rapid test, which we are trying to validate, when it's validated, these are the rapid tests. We are very good quick tests that we can use for health workers. The first, we would like to find out if most of the health workers who are at the forefront of seeing patients first and all this, if they have build some antibody. You know, the rapid test tests what we call IgM and IgG. IgM is like when you are having the phase of an infection and then you are infective. IgG means that you build some immunity. That's what will determine if they have herd immunity or not herd immunity. So if you test a group of health workers who are maybe working at the COVID treatment center and they all have IgG, it means they've been exposed. It doesn't mean that they were exposed but they were not sick. If you test them and then they are IgM, then it means they're having active infection where you can then subject them to PCR tests. That's what some countries do. So they do the rapid test and then confirm it with a PCR test. But we are doing the PCR test, which picks the virus. Even the smallest minute the virus, it will pick it. That is positive, especially after about 3 to 4 days. The same thing, IgM starts picking the positive test about the 7th day. And then the IgG starts after about 12.
When do you want to roll this out? What is the estimated timeline?
We have asked people, a lot of people have come to see us. They've gone to see FDA. FDA has come up with guidelines on how to authenticate and also validate all the tests. Because the fact that the test is being used maybe in Japan or somewhere doesn't mean that it can and be used. So that's a guideline. So they ask for a number of test samples, test kits that you will bring for a number of tests. And then they will do a test and make sure that they test the negative and positive and then test against positive blood and negative.
So back to the doctors, will you have now for them a priority testing strategy or it's something that is already there? Do you have it or not, or are you going to roll it out soon?
When we know there's a doctor who needs a test, most of the time is done quickly for the doctor. If you get to know.
Shouldn't we have a separate testing regime for the doctor?
It's not only doctor, for health workers, yes. But because now we are going to have a lot of test centers all over the country, especially in the north. In fact, the people from the north are the difficult areas because they have to come all the way. One of the regional directors was telling me every 2 days he has to send samples to KCCR. But luckily, when we set that one up, maybe if the president's speech he said it. For example, the drones was used to deliver. It's not delivering tests.
So that you can use that to do a rapid.
So we can get
delivery.
We can get the drones to take the tests from the center to
and KCCR and etc. Final question to you before we wrap up: what would it take for us to lift all the restrictions that we still have?
We are studying the situation. That's what I said.
I said, what would it take? Give me the rules.
What will it take?
Yes, what would it take? What would you see before you advise the president and say, now we are ready to lift all the restrictions? What would it take? What does it look like?
What it looks like is that we are studying the disease, how a pattern of disease.
This question is a very simple one. You must, in your planning, say there must be an endpoint to this.
Yeah.
What does the endpoint look like for you?
When we see, for example, this is a new virus. That's why I say nobody understands the virus very well. But normally, if you have flu, for example, H1N1 and all these things, it is a seasonal illness, especially in Europe. You see, coronavirus and other flu viruses stay at a place where the weather
So I'm just asking, I mean,
I'm answering you.
Because we're just running out of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it is when we see that the pandemic is going down, WHO will declare that the pandemic is over. And the WHO will then tell us what we are supposed to do.
Okay.
I said the virus will stay with us for a long time.
So I guess the answer to the question
and then there is maybe a vaccine which have been, and then you know that the closure of the borders and all these things is done not only by Ghana.
Okay, so I get you. So what you're saying, just to sum up, because of time, you're saying that the WHO declaring this a pandemic is over.
Yes.
Vaccine available. Those are factors that will lead us to say.
They are all factors which will help us
in making that determination.
Determine that what we are supposed to do.
Dr.
But we are studying the situation.